Hello everyone, this is Deb from Deb's Corner Canada. Welcome to another Deb Answers. Today's popular question and answer is, list specific covert narcissist tactics with samples. I'm going to name 6 here, just keeping it to 6. I'm sure there's many more, but starting with number 1 on our list, which is triangulation. Here's where the narcissist will make really sure to start really small by first mentioning others just enough to gauge what reactions can get them the most bang for their ego buck. If I had to pick one particular tactic a covert uses almost from the get-go, it is this one. A solid example here would be casually and when I say casual, I mean casual, mentioning perhaps a new coworker's daughter, sister, son, relative who stopped by. And he is newly separated, but they're doing great. He just even got a place close to the parents' workplace close by. If you give them kind of an odd side glance, and honestly, who wouldn't, they know that this, has at minimum made you take notice of this seemingly out of the blue comment. For them, that odd look there is the green light to move into phase 2 of that end goal. Namely, to eventually elicit a public reactive abuse response from you later when that smear campaign starts. Here's where they will wait just long enough for you to kind of think perhaps this was a one-off, an odd comment. It's not. It's a setup. Next comes a more detailed run, though, specifically details that involve them and this mysterious coworker's daughter, son, sister, perhaps needing a lift or a favor, but initially through the coworker. So this is a pre-story. This is a pre-setup story and can be really sussed out based on the sheer amount of details. There's going to be so many details involved in this. And the key here being that the more details you hear, the bigger that manipulation is at hand. It will also be so convoluted and detailed that you may actually lose interest in even hearing it to the end of this practice spiel. The details, however, will involve the possibility of this coworker's family or friends being alone or somehow in one-on-one communication with a narcissist at some point outside of that coworker. And if that doesn't get a rise out of you, they will grab a bigger pole to poke the bear with. And this is where they will casually mention that they somehow had to be alone with the before mentioned coworkers, family, or friends. And they had to maybe meet the coworker for some work reason, but outside of work hours at their home or wherever. And that this family or friend of the coworker was somehow around or can do them a favor. There's going to be some kind of a connection there. So making it sound legitimate, but overly explained, and the story will morph every time it's told. You'll also notice that said coworker will never be introduced to you in any solid official way, and if so, maybe once, and really more as kind of a quick point out, pointing out to someone across the parking lot and saying, oh yeah, Joe works over on that side of the building. Keep in mind, they also set this crap up so they can get away with all of the many sneaky side links they are constantly on the hunt for. So this doubles as a great cover for the eventual ghosting time that they always carve out. In addition to giving them something you really cannot verify. You can't verify this. And if you try to verify, will actually fall right into that background smear campaign that's going on, that you are jealous or controlling. They will even kind of go as far as to tell you afterward to distract you from your latest cell phone discoveries, saying that they figured you would overreact if they volunteered this, for instance, using this when, say, you perhaps catch yet another odd or kind of bizarre location, never ends, by using this to kind of not only gaslight you, but to flare up that reactive abuse response in all of its glory for them. Saying something like, fine, you want to know where I was? Well, Joe had an eye infection and couldn't drive his daughter's son to the doctor's appointment, so I felt bad for her, and said I would drive him or her for them. If you ask that coworker to confirm this, you're crazy. If you get upset, you're selfish. You weren't told because you would overreact. You see the pattern? It's always a pattern. Number 1 rule of narcissism, you cannot and you will not win. They will even shamelessly flirt with your or their family or friends, then accuse you of overreacting to keep those reactive abuse responses going in public. Leading us to number 2, ghosting. Keeping in mind, the biggest sign of a narcissist of any flavor is the love bomb tactic, that initial period, where you will be inseparable and in constant communication for, I'd say, about 3 to 6 months, even if that interrupts your other responsibilities and your self-care needs. Keeping in mind theirs will never be interrupted, just yours. Then once that hook is kind of in, the mask will begin to melt. It will begin to slip and literally spinning on a dime with things like strange cell phone habits, par for the course. So that would be things like turning their ringers off, forwarding their calls, keeping cells in their pocket or face down. They will keep identical cell phones and identify the same cases. They will confine all outside communication to only hookup and dating apps. They will delete and re-add apps or have 2 Apple IDs and switch between the Apple IDs before coming home. They will place a sibling's name and attach it to an ex or a sneaky side link's actual number and text away right in front of you without a thought. Number 3, self-esteem annihilation, but only after the initial info gathering period, which is, I'd say, month 1 to 3 typically is where that is, where they will pretend to be deeply invested in your innermost problems and fears, using it later as ammo. But for now, it's just small off-type behavior and just jokes that, frankly, are off-putting, insulting, or rude, but designed to test those kind of ride or die waters to make sure that you're going to stick with them no matter what's being said. Number 4, the smear campaign. So here's where the very air around you will start to feel distinctively off, just off. And at first, the monkeys will kind of, they're going to believe that the sun rises and it shines on your backside. And slowly over time, as you go out with the narcissist, you will begin to notice a very sudden, unexplained distaste from the monkeys, from the closest monkeys. And that's the hidden close circle background smear campaign starting up in action. That machine has started. They're in actual fact working all of the angles behind the scenes with all of the groups, subtly hinting to both their family and friends and yours of your problems and their concerns about you. So when the victim begins to finally wake up and complain or react or inquire with others, the monkeys are actually pre-prepped into thinking the victim is doing what the narcissist themselves is actually doing. And of course they're going to be appalled, so you're going to see that reaction from them. Here's where a visit to others who previously socialized openly with you will begin to grow very silent around you. Or you'll hear conversations come to an abrupt stop when you re-enter a room or enter a room, or see them give each other kind of knowing looks, but they won't say anything to you. Eventually, you'll feel as if you're simply not wanted there at all, morphing into even outright glaring at you, whispering, or the monkeys wandering off with the narcissist and leaving you sitting somewhere completely alone, which is just rude. Eventually, they will avoid you outright or pretend to not be home so that they don't have to visit you as a couple. Or, they can't visit you as a couple anymore for whatever the reason is, but will still be in constant contact with the narcissist, when you're not around only. Or on speakerphone later after the narc sets you up for weeks for an explosive kind of reactive abuse response so that it'll line up with kind of what they've been slandering you about to the others behind your back. So it all fits in. Number 5, isolate and hide supply. They all do this one. If you keep in mind, narcissists are always attached behind the scenes. They monkey branch to the next supply as they're terrified of being alone, in the public eye especially. So you will be hidden so that they can appear single to the outside. They do not release one branch without having another branch ready. So specific examples of being around one would include never taking accountability for any past relationships. Here's where every single ex is crazy, or they cheated, or they were this, or they were that. And the tip here, a key question to ask, a suspected one here would be, what would you have done different in your past relationships? If they cannot answer this or project blame outward only, you've got your answer, and that's really all you need there. They can't take accountability. So that's your answer. Also, verification of anything anyone says is key here. Knock on a door, look up an address. If you have to, I always check them online. You check the narcissist online, you check their monkeys online, you check the people they're talking about, check. Also, when they're making these just jokes to isolate you from social circles and they nitpick at your self-esteem and your self-care to just exhaustion, the more that you're going to isolate yourself, which is the plan to do their job. Eventually, your home will be the only place that you feel like you are safe, and you won't want to leave the house or have the monkeys and eventually, honestly, even your own circle come over, fitting into their plan even more to isolate you and even make you look rude or standoffish, right? It just fits even more with these manipulations. So number 6, chronic cheating, both emotional and sexually. Married coverts especially will cheat mostly by misusing dating and hookup apps. Steer clear of those. You will typically meet one through one of two ways. One, they will slide into your DMs, phrased as having maybe a past crush on you, or they know a family member you know, something like that. Number 2, on dating apps, which are riddled with hunting narcs. You'll notice specific things like rushing to sex with no discussion on birth control or sexual history, which is crazy. Constant, intense, 24/7 communication. And it's only going to be within apps or unregistered and uncheckable numbers. Being in a different state or province. An anticipated lifelong closeness, if that's what you're looking for, typically requires some kind like proximity, right? They'll never let you pop over without previously setting it up, or worse, they won't tell you where they live at all. They will only have you pick them up at work, or picking you up at your work, or only meeting at, say, your place, or worse, B&B, a motel, something like that. You will never see them on a weeknight or weekend, and especially in the evenings. It's not going to happen. They will only text or call when they are on a work break or on the way to or from work. That is quite the flag. So these particular tactics I've named, all 6 of these here, are really kind of at that root, designed to really keep that copious amount of constant side supply apart. Keep all the groups apart and avoid that narrative, clarifying that narrative, and to keep you from respecting yourself by gaining the truth and the closure so that you can find someone that you deserve and that deserves you. And usually it will gravitate to even convincing those sneaky side link supplies that come to town to move to them, visit them over a long weekend, and test them out and attempt to increase that permanent stockpile of supply stores. And, these are people, these are not objects. So this is Deb, and I'm signing off for now, and I'll see you again next on the next Deb Answers. Bye.